We've had 3 terror attacks in our country this week alone. We've had terror attacks in Canada, in Norway, against our embassies. We are at war. We are at war, and it is revealing itself. And there is a split in America. And, I have said to you here for the last, 10 days or so, my job is not to tell you what to think. My job is not to take a stance one way or another. I tell you how I think, how I arrived at these conclusions. And today I want to play the role of a doctor for you. I'm going to give you the diagnosis, and I'm going to show you what is in your body, what is happening to the Western civilization, and give you a choice. And today I am going to take a firm stand for or against this war, a firm stand. So I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm just saying you need to hear it and know where I stand, because there comes a time when America, you have to decide. You have to decide, and it's up to you, but I'll tell you where I am. Also, we have some really good news. There's some good things that are happening in the country, and believe it or not, what happened in both Michigan and Virginia, not the terror attack, but the response to the terror attack, actually is good news, and I want to go over that as well. But we have Tracey Holmes. We've been trying to get a hold of her for the last couple of days. It's midnight in Australia right now, and she's been staying up late so she could be on the program with us. She is the host of the Sports Ambassador. She's a sports journalist, been in it forever, and she's the one that has been breaking the story and telling the story of the Iranian soccer team, the women's soccer team. And she has a lot to tell. It's an amazing story. She'll take it from the beginning and then what we're dealing with in Australia as well. Tracey joins me in 60 seconds. First, let me tell you about our sponsor this half hour. It's the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. 4,000 years ago, God told Abraham to look at the sand on the seashore, and he made a promise that Abraham's descendants would be as numerous as those grains of sand and that they would be blessed. It's truly one of the most remarkable promises in all of history, because ever since that moment, this sand has survived wave after wave after wave of trying to break them down, destroy them, and erase them. Persecution has come from every direction, and yet the people of Israel are still standing, and they're still building, and they're carrying a light that the world has never been able to put out. And Christians, they are our brothers. Whether you like it or not, they are our brothers. It doesn't mean you have to agree with Israel, the war, or anything else. But the Jewish people are our brothers. If it wasn't for the Jews, we wouldn't have the Old Testament. We wouldn't have Jesus. And last night, I actually heard a podcaster say, "What's the proof that Jesus was a Jew?" Are you out of your mind? Are we really at that place? It is time to step up and take a stand. Would you join the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews? Right now, they're in Israel. They're on the ground. They're providing bomb shelters, food for the elderly who can't get out, and people are not coming to help them because the situation is so chaotic. Be God's hands and feet. If you would, donate $45 right now. Rush life-saving essentials to the vulnerable under fire. 888-488-IFCJ, 888-488-IFCJ, or go online at ifcj.org, ifcj.org. We welcome Tracey Holmes now, sports journalist, host of the Sports Ambassador in Australia. Thank you for staying up so late for us. I know it's very late in Australia.
Not at all. Pleasure to be on your program. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, Tracey, we've been watching from afar this amazing story. Can you tell us from the beginning? Let's start with the national anthem. When the girls' soccer team was out, we had just started bombing Iran, and the soccer team is standing on the field. The national anthem is played, and they don't sing. Start there. How shocking was that, and how much trouble were they in? And did they know?
Well, they're in a lot of trouble. Yeah, so if I rewind even further, back in the Qatar FIFA World Cup in 2022, the men's team did the same thing. They had turned up to play on the back of a massive protests in their country, and when the anthem played, they did not sing. They were then instructed they must sing by game two, otherwise they would face consequences when they got back home. So when the women did the same thing, it was, an act of bravery. It was a real statement. But I think we also need to pull back and look at the wider context. As you say, 48 hours earlier, the bombing campaign had started in their country. So their country was essentially at war. And there were pockets of celebrations in the streets, even here in Australia, where quite a large Iranian expat community lives. And so there was all of this feeding into them and feeding into where they stood on this. So game number one, national anthem plays, they don't sing, and there were repercussions. We know that because by game two, not only had we seen the security apparatus tighten around the team at their team hotel, but by game two, they not only sang the anthem, they also saluted the flag.
Wow. So any idea, we've heard rumors their families, some of them may have been taken or taken in for questioning, or at least the message was sent, you will behave, we have your families. Correct?
Yeah, pretty much. They also had to sign statements before they left, which was tying them, from what we believe, to some sort of financial commitment that these girls would all return home. Otherwise, there would be a penalty for the family to pay, financial or otherwise. And also, after the incident, we also heard from one of the state spokespeople on state television, basically saying that these women were not just traitors, they were wartime traitors, the worst of the worst, and they should be punished sufficiently given that tag.
Well, I mean, we know in America, the only crime that comes with a constitutional punishment is traitor. It's very hard to prove in America, but it's constitutionally required death. I got to believe that's the kind of punishment they were talking about in Iran.
Yeah, well, you would hate to think that that's what they were going to face, but we're in a situation now where 6 of the women stayed in Australia. They have sought asylum and been given visas. The Australian government offered emergency visas to any female in that team that wanted one. There was one other who originally accepted one and then changed her mind. Now, those that didn't accept them have flown to Malaysia. They were supposed to get on a flight to go onwards to Turkey and then bus across the border into Iran, but they've been prevented from doing that. They can't find plane access to be able to get back into the vicinity of Iran, so they're still in Malaysia. And there are rumours that there are some people in Malaysia now, perhaps another 3, who are also seeking asylum.
So, what has happened if they do get home? Do you have any idea why they would have chosen to go home? Was it family, or were they believers in the regime? Do you know?
Well, we don't know the breakdown of that, but I imagine there may have been some that were regime supporters. We have seen one woman in particular, one of the players, who has put up a very pro-regime message on her Instagram account, but you don't know whether that is done through coercion. If you have to think about that choice to make as a young female, do I stay in a foreign land where I don't speak the language and know nobody, but I will have freedom that I do not have at home, or do I go back to my family who was under threat because of my position? We've also seen a change in state television broadcasting who have said that any girl that comes home will be celebrated as a national hero. So they're being put in this terrible psychological position where they've got to be, backflipping on what they want and what they think and what they're being threatened with and how they have to pretend if they don't believe.
So I saw one of your reports, and I can't believe this is true. Donald Trump had to get involved and say, and I hope it wasn't too much pressure that it took, but he said, look, guys, if you don't take them, we will. But I've heard reports from you that your Secretary of Foreign Affairs have some kind of deal that if somebody wants to defect, that his office has to be alerted, and then he alerts the country of origin. Is that true?
No, that's not true. No. So what happens is...
thank God. Thank God. I thought, boy, Australia is lost if that's happening.
No, the Home Affairs Minister has just stated that, the government, they can't coerce people into seeking asylum,
Right.
so it has to come from the person
Sure.
themselves. And, once
Right.
that approach has been made, they do everything in their power to facilitate that, which is what happened. The Home Affairs Minister actually flew to the Gold Coast where the team was staying to be able to meet with those who were seeking asylum. And then they did organise within the next 48 hours or so individual meetings with each of the girls to determine which way they thought, to try and give them some space away from the very tight security around them who were trying to prevent them from, making such decisions.
So President Trump didn't have to get involved?
Well, it was good that he did, I think, because that highlighted the situation to a whole lot of other people and around the world.
Yeah.
It got further headlines because of that. But the time he rang, where he said, basically, if you don't do it, we will. The Prime Minister said to him, thanks very much. We've already got this under control. Our Home Affairs Minister is in a room with them right now. And that's when Donald Trump then put out another truth saying he's got this. The Australian Prime Minister's all over it.
I saw a video of protesters actually laying down in front of the bus at one point, and I thought, well, here's a group of protesters I actually applaud for the first time in a long time. These protesters that were saying, don't ship them back, don't allow that bus to move. Have you seen any? What is the reaction in Australia? Is it pro saving them, or are you getting pushback and we're unfortunately having terror attacks because of the war here in America. Are you seeing any signs of trouble for you guys for saving them?
No, but as you know, we've had trouble recently, building up in the last few months. We've had some attacks on, synagogues. We've had the Bondi beach shooting. There is this, but we've also had, months and months of protests as well. But one thing I should mention is the public support for the women's football team of Iran has been overwhelmingly positive and very receptive to the government offering them these asylum visas, these emergency visas. But at the same time that this was happening, the government took a position where temporary visa holders in the Middle East region, and I think there's about 12,000, maybe more, they have now been restricted. So even if they have a visa to come here, because they are now at war, they will be restricted, and it's up to the Home Affairs Minister as to whether he will allow those visa holders to actually come into the country. So it's like he was giving visas to the women on one hand, but those that already had visas but are not in the country yet are being restricted from coming here. And that's understandable given that war changes everything.
So FIFA begins in less than 100 days, I think. What are the ramifications on FIFA? Because it's co-hosted here in America.
It is, and there's been a lot of focus on America because we know that, again, immigration has been in the news for a long time, deportations as well. So people were wondering if each of the teams that have qualified would be able to get in there. The president has said that any qualified team, as long as, the officials and the players pass through rigorous security checks, will be allowed to come in. The Iran team, on the back of the war, the regime has said it's unlikely we will come. Then, there were statements coming out of the US saying they were still welcome to come because they have qualified, and these are notes from FIFA as well. Then the regime has come out in about last 24 hours or so and said, how can we come? That's ridiculous. We're not coming. Now, in the last hour, I've seen a statement from the team itself saying, hang on, we're the players. We qualified. This only happens once every 4 years. We deserve the right to be there. So there's a lot of different, the narratives are all over the place.
Tracey, I would love to stay in touch with you. I found your reporting to be just remarkable on this. And I know you have a book out. What is your book called? Dragon?
It's called The Eye of the Dragonfly.
Right, which I'm fascinated to read because you look at the world through the prism of sports, and I know you've been doing this forever and ever and ever, and I just really appreciate your outlook and your take on things. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Glenn.
You bet. Tracey Holmes, sports journalist, host of the Sports Ambassador in Australia. She is the person that has really been following this, and you can find her at sportsambassadorsubstack.com. All right. Our sponsor this half hour is realestateagentsitrust.com. As we move through 2026, the housing market is starting to shift. Inventory is actually rising. Mortgage rates settled down around 6%, and we could be in for some better news even on that with a new director or head of the Fed. More sellers are having to drop their asking price or negotiate, which means buyers are starting to, have something they haven't had in a while, and that is leverage. And you want the best real estate agent you can find. And we have scoured the nation for the best of the best. We started working with the 500 best real estate agents in the country, according to the Wall Street Journal. I learned from them. I asked them, what makes you different? How can you, like all of our real estate agents, they're having their best 2 years of their career. How does that happen when everybody says you can't sell or buy a house? Because these are the best of the best. You want somebody like that on your team when it's tough to buy and sell a house. These are the people we will put you in touch with. I don't charge you a dime for it. It's realestateagentsitrust.com. Realestateagentsitrust.com. You want to sell your house fast, get the best price for your new house. These are the people to help you do it. Realestateagentsitrust.com. 10 seconds, station ID. All right, I want to bring Jason in here, our chief researcher. He's also the host of the Insider podcast, which happens during this show. When I go into commercial break, he's covering all the things I just didn't have time to cover, and you can see that at Torch at glennbeck.com/torch. Join us now. But it's Jason. I just saw a press conference. I didn't have time to listen to the whole thing from Pete Hegseth. And then that coupled with Donald Trump, his message on Truth Social last night, which was, wait till you see what happens to these monsters tomorrow. We're expecting a big day, are we not?
Yeah, the president was tweeting last night to wait and see what happens today. And that, as you said, that was followed up with Pete Hegseth. What's very interesting if you look at this in context with what the Israelis are now doing in Iran. The Israelis are now releasing drone footage. They're flying drones unimpeded over skies like the capital in Tehran. And they are picking off systematically, one by one, IRGC checkpoints within the city and other like hardened areas that the regime would use to push back against protesters and demonstrators if and when the Iranian people come out. So this is a wild, I guess, development in the entire war, because if you look where this is going, this will essentially be where the demonstrators, they didn't have this capability before, obviously, but they will essentially be able to call in airstrikes, which I don't think has ever been done before in any kind of situation like this. Not by a private
population? No.
I know. It really is wild, but that's where we're looking towards. And you also look in the context of the Crown Prince, who said just a couple days ago to continue to stay in your homes, but to get ready for the eventual day. It's coming. So that's what I'm looking at.
This weekend is going to be a big weekend. Here in the United States, we had a synagogue targeted last night. We had a university, Old Dominion, targeted yesterday. And I want to get into all of the details. In a nutshell, Jason, recap those.
So we had in Michigan, we had basically a wannabe car bomber. He had explosives reportedly in his vehicle, ran into the temple that had an active preschool going on at the time. But he rammed in, per reports, jumped out, and it sounds like he began shooting, and then security guards engaged and took him down. Now, he was from Lebanon originally, and reports say that he was angry over airstrikes or people of his family that were killed over there. But when you look at that in terms of the other attack later, Old Dominion shooter, he had already been in trouble for ISIS related stuff. I'm not entirely sure why he was let out, but then goes in and starts shooting up the place, and he's taken down by ROTC members at Old Dominion. It's just an amazing story. I cannot wait to hear more on the actual ROTC people that responded. But this is now...
You know what? Anybody who's ever said, oh, you're ROTC, you need to apologize to those guys. They were tough as nails yesterday.
Oh, tough as nails.
Rendered him unalive yesterday without guns. I love that verb. Rendered him unalive. Oh, like unhoused. Okay. In other words, they beat him to death, which I'm not all that against, quite honestly, in that case. All right. This, to me, is a pivot point. Because of these attacks, it's a pivot point. And so I'm going to tell you in no uncertain terms what you're facing, the clearest, and a change in stance, if you will, on war next. Let me tell you about our sponsor. It's Patriot Mobile. Sometimes, sticking to your principles is really hard. The ones where you're standing by what you believe is costing you something. Maybe it's just being uncomfortable. Maybe it puts you in the minority. Maybe it means you have to walk away from something. But every now and then, standing by your principles actually matters. And if you are doing business with one of the big three mobile phone companies, they are doing business with groups that you do not like, that are not supporting the values and the principles that you support. So choose a company that is supporting those and helping you in the fight. Because it's not just a cell phone service that you're getting. When you're picking one of the big threes, you're in league with people who are not helping in the direction you want to help. But Patriot Mobile is. So switch right now. Every month, your bill will help fund great things: faith, family, the Constitution. PatriotMobile.com, America's only Christian conservative phone company. It's PatriotMobile.com/Beck. Use Beck as a promo code. You'll get a free month of service. PatriotMobile.com/Beck. 972-PATRIOT.
March 19th, Torch debuts its first live special that will probably get Glenn in a lot of trouble. Join today at glennbeck.com/torch to see it.
Welcome back to the Torch Insider Show. I am Jason Butchell. Just like Rockstar Ricky was talking about, our special is coming up at the perfect time right now. It's the Islamization of the West. It goes way deeper into just looking at specific attacks, like kinetic attacks, terror attacks that they do, and goes into the quiet part, the slow, methodical change, the radical, fundamental change of the United States of America. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? But it goes into all of that. A lot of things that we're seeing within our own communities, and then the reverse of that, very out in the open, walking through the halls of Congress. I show you a picture of that. I was going to show you that yesterday. I'm going to show you a picture of that today, which will absolutely blow your mind. But you want to subscribe. If you're watching this right now on another platform, X, YouTube, Facebook, wherever, you need to go to glennbeck.com right now /torch, subscribe. You're going to have access to this live documentary that we're going to be doing less than a week, next Thursday. You're going to get access to that, all the other content, but you're also going to get access to the Insider Show throughout the entire 3-hour broadcast, and that's what you want to do. You also want to become part of this family that we have, the insiders that are just jamming comments right now. There's multiple huge discussions going on in the comments right now. Lots and lots of activity. And on that, so subscribe if you're not, get access to all that, become part of the family. But on the comments that are happening right now, I didn't write the entire comment down, but it was from John Carmichael. And he said the chat sometimes is hard to read, especially when it's under a heavy load, like today when there's lots of news and there's lots of conversations going. And some people were commenting around that. And I 100% agree with you. It's slowly changing to allow it to be able to be better so that we can engage and have conversations, but it's nothing compared to what it's going to look like. I've seen the mock-ups for this, and it's going to be revolutionary. It's going to be awesome. It's also going to allow you to do things like coordinate and get together in groups so that when the time comes, if you want to meet up, you can. Or if Glenn is going somewhere at the last minute and says, hey, let's meet up at this coffee shop, you can also do that. So just bear with us on that. It's going to look nothing like what it's looking right now. But on some of those rules and website stuff, Amy said, I can't share the video of the guy I asked about yesterday saying, you will know soon who I am. I remember that. That came in during the open borders era. Is YouTube blocked now? I don't know specifically if YouTube is blocked, but I know that they're worried about links in general, being that we've been hit with 2 cyber attacks now. So they're trying to make it to where it's safe, but also doesn't open you up to if someone is doing something nefarious and it's a phishing attack or something like that, that you click on it and then you get, identity fraud or something like that. But there's all that techie stuff going on. But if certain links are not working, or if there's some weirdness, let me know, or let support at glennbeck.com know, and we'll work through that. So it's a work in progress. But I don't think it was specifically YouTube. I don't really know what the trigger is for it. Going through some of your comments, Stump Digger said, he's from Bryan, Texas. Carry your weapon at all times in public. 100% agree. We have a Second Amendment right for a reason. That is why you are your own first responder. You are the first responder. You take care of your family. And the Second Amendment allows us to do that. So 100% agree with you, Stump Digger. Sue 16 NH, New Hampshire. Old Dominion students deserve a trip to the White House. The ROTC guys 100% agree with you. Definitely need a trip to the White House. Amazing men and women there. MNC Trick. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, but said, my son is the new ROTC instructor and just left drill sergeant duty. Today he was on his way to work and they told him to go back home. Really interesting. Hit me back up in the comments. Where exactly? Where is this? Which school? The ROTC guys, just amazing. Just kids, and responded the way they did to this. They are awesome. Christy in Texas said, in Tyler, Texas. Got it. I love Tyler, Texas. I love the East Texas big trees. It's so much different from what we get in DFW. Tampa Ken, did Glenn stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night? Equalizer on that said, Glenn broadcasting from the pool house. Glenn is on location. He's at a different affiliate radio station today. I'll let him go into the specifics of where that is if he wants to. But yeah, he's busy bee Glenn as usual, traveling around doing stuff. I think he's going to do a speech or something like that later today. Way more news that we're just about to get into. Glenn's just about right now to get into. So we need to get into the weeds on the Michigan Temple attack, but also the Old Dominion attack. What do all of these in context have tied to them? What does it mean? Where are we going towards? And these are just two. These are two attacks over the past 7 days. There are actually multiple more, at least three that I can think of off the top of my head in the United States in the past 7 days. But we're also looking at places like Canada, other places in the world. So things are beginning to escalate. I went back to, this was the link that I was trying to find you guys earlier. Producer Matt, if we got time, we got 37 seconds. This was that story on, so this is from Radio Free Europe, but there's multiple different write-ups on it about the random numbers, the Persian code. A mysterious signal transfixes radio sleuths and intelligence experts. So there's a number station. This is like a thing from the Cold War that is in Farsi, just broadcasting multiple different numbers. So this was something done in the Cold War about the Americans and the Soviets. It's just interesting. I'm running out of time again. I've got more to say on this, but right now Glenn has way more to go over with you. Stay tuned right now.
I want to give you a couple of pieces of audio here from the FBI yesterday during a press conference after the shooting at Old Dominion University. The FBI gave an update, and here is cut one from the FBI on the terrorist shooter at Old Dominion, Virginia.
I can tell you that we have confirmed reports that prior to him conducting this act of terrorism, he shouted or stated Allah Akbar, and he was formerly a subject of a FBI investigation in material supporting terrorism.
I'd like to know when that actually happened. Was that under the Biden administration or the Trump administration? Because I know that one administration likes to excuse people who are like, oh, well, they're not really terrorists. I'd like to know exactly what happened to that investigation from the FBI. When it happened will tell us an awful lot. And here is the FBI again on the students, the ROTC, that stopped the shooter. Listen.
There were students who were in that room that subdued him, and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot?
He was not shot.
He shot 3 people?
Correct. We have information that he shot 3 people.
And he's no longer alive. Amen. Now, in Michigan, we had another terrorist attack, this time on a synagogue. And I'm going to later talk to you about what happened there and how the media, New York Times, MSNBC, or whatever the hell they're calling it now, what they are now saying, who's responsible? And I'll give you 2 guesses. Jews and Republicans. If that's what you guessed, you're absolutely right. We'll get into that here in a minute. But I want to spend some minutes being very, very clear on something, because you are now going to start hearing blame on this, all these terror attacks, because more are coming. And all these terror attacks, they didn't have to happen, yada, yada, yada. So let me be very clear. Please hear me, America. Please hear me on this. The war in Iran did not begin yesterday. Yesterday was a pivot point, and I'll explain in a minute, but it didn't begin, with Donald Trump declaring war, didn't with the latest missile strike or the intelligence briefings or the latest headline scrolling across your phone. That's not when it started. This war began in 1979 when the Shah fell and the Marxist students gathered with the Islamists. They worked together to destabilize Iran and overthrow the country of Iran. When the diplomats were blindfolded from America and marched through the gates of the embassy, and they held them there for 444 days. That's when this started. From that moment forward, Iran declared something really simple, and they've been shouting it and chanting it in their streets since 1979. Death to America. They chanted it. And every president, from Reagan to Bush to Clinton, all of them, even those who were just candidates, including Hillary Clinton and Al Gore, have all said the same thing. Iran is the central engine of terror in the modern world. They are a death cult, and all of them have said on both sides of the aisle, if it's not stopped, the day will come when we're going to face a nuclear-armed Iran. The diagnosis has been delivered by doctor after doctor that the American people have hired, and it's the same thing. And I think those doctors, those presidents, have all, in their own way, been a little bit cowardice. And maybe they made the decision. I'm not going to say that they were cowards. They didn't have the guts to pull the trigger because they thought there were other options on the table. And the American people said, well, maybe it's not that serious. Okay. I'm going to be the doctor that you don't want to hear from today. I'm sorry. Islamism, this revolutionary, apocalyptic ideology that is behind the Iranian regime, is cancer. Islamism is cancer. And just like cancer, at first you may not notice it. You can dismiss the early symptoms. You can tell yourself that you're just tired, or, maybe that lump was there before. Whatever it is, you tend to go into denial. Maybe you even begin to blame your own habits. Maybe I caused this. I've smoked my whole life. I didn't eat right. I'm just probably overreacting. All of these things, that's normal to happen. But cancer does not care about your denial. In fact, it's its favorite environment to grow in. While you're denying it, it continues to grow, and it grows while you argue whether or not it even exists. And it spreads as you debate with yourself, whose fault is it? It feeds while you reassure yourself that everything is still basically normal. All the while, it's doing one thing. It is eating the healthy parts of your body. It is taking it cell by cell, slowly, quietly, patiently. It is just eating. And one day, you go to the doctor, and the doctor looks at the scan and says something that you never, ever want to hear. It's no longer isolated. It's everywhere. At that point, you have a choice to make. And that's the pivot point. That's where we are right now. It is everywhere. And so now your options change. Okay, the treatment has to change. It's no longer a simple surgery that you could have had a few years ago. It's something much, much harsher. It becomes radical because the cancer has become radical. So now you need chemotherapy and radiation and radical invasive surgery. None of these are good. None of these are going to make you feel good, but it's designed to purge the body of something that is eating you from the inside out. And each of the treatments are brutal. But let me just concentrate on one. Let me just talk to you about chemo. Let me liken chemo to what we're facing right now, this war and the effects of it, okay? So war is the chemo that we're putting through. The hair falling out is the terror attacks that you're seeing. Now, you have a choice. Are we going to treat this or not? Are we just going to deny that it was really a problem? But really, the choice is this. Do you want to live or not? Because when the cancer becomes this bad, that is the choice. Do you want to live, or do you want to just live your remaining days feeling good? But they're going to be short days. Chemo will weaken you, and it is. It will weaken us. It will make you sick. We'll have protests in the streets. We'll be arguing with each other. We will deplete our armed forces. It's going to make us weaker. We will lose hair, all kinds of effects that we really don't want. We'll be vomiting all the time. Those things are the terror attacks that are happening, and you will feel worse during the treatment. And then some people will say, which in a very narrow sense is absolutely true, you know what? We were better off before the chemo started. That's absolutely true. You were, kind of. You were dying, but you were feeling better. But if you wouldn't have done anything, you were dead. In a very short period of time, you'd be dead. Now, it doesn't matter, and it may even piss the patient off when the doctor like I come in and tell the truth. But here's the truth. None of this had to happen. We didn't have to do this. I've been on the air for 50 years. So I've been on the air. In fact, I was on the air a couple of years before we went before they took our hostages in Iran. I've been talking about Iran forever. And if we would have done the things at the time we should have, none of this would have happened. But now we have no good options left. There's nothing. It's death or this. And that's where we are. And this confrontation is not a sudden war, okay? It's 47 years of ignored warnings, finally reaching the stage where the disease can no longer be contained with polite diplomacy and hopeful secrets. And so the side effects are ugly. There will be retaliation. There will be terror. There will be more terror attempts and more terror. There will be economic shocks, okay? But we weren't better than we were before we started the treatment. We were just in denial, and the effects of it being in every organ of our body was just starting to show signs of a problem. But if you waited and continued to do nothing, it would kill us for sure. Now, what would have happened if Ronald Reagan, one of my heroes, would have gone in and said, Beirut, nothing, and punished them at that point? He didn't. He said, we can negotiate. We can do all kinds of things. The tumor was small. We'll try other things. We chose to delay. We chose negotiations for the last 47 years without consequence. We chose sanctions without enforcement. We chose to hope that cancer just might stop growing. It would choose to stop growing. Cancer never makes that decision because cancer, to live, must feed on something. And so it's spread through Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, through militias in Iraq and Syria, now in our universities, now in our media. It's infected every organization, our government. It's in our neighborhoods. It's in many of American mosques. It's here, gang. And it is the most radical form of cancer. And the body of Western civilization has a long history of fighting this kind of cancer. And so we have a long history of knowing what happens if it goes untreated. So yes, what comes next is going to make you vomit. It's going to make your hair fall out. It's going to make you feel like crap. It's going to be painful. And here's the thing you really don't want to hear. And because we waited so long, we may die anyway. But if the body has a chance of survival, it must be cut out completely. And every cell, well, you know, when the surgeons go in for surgery like this, when they think they're finished, they leave the body open and they say, send everything out and let's look at the margins. And then they get it back. Did they cut everything? Because if there's one cell of the cancer left behind, it grows back. And it grows stronger, more aggressive, and more determined. And you're in the same situation. This is where we're at now, America. This is it. This is what history is demanding of Western civilization right now. Not denial, not delay, not pretending the diagnosis is wrong or never came, not pretending that cancer maybe isn't so bad. Doctors have warned us for 40 years. The patient is finally open on the operating table, and like it or not, the time for debate is over. Here's my change. I have told you this is, I'm not trying to sway you, and I'm still not trying to sway you, but I have not been clear where I stood. Today, after the terror attacks yesterday, I'm very clear. The body is open. The surgery has begun. Whether you were for the surgery or against the surgery, the body is on the table and the surgeons have their hands and their scalpels in and they are cutting the cancer out. This isn't exploratory surgery. You know, back when I was growing up, before we had CAT scans and everything else, you had exploratory surgery where they just cut somebody open. We think he might have cancer. Cut them open. The worst thing that would happen is the surgery would be very short and the doctor would come out and say, we just sewed him back up. It's too far gone. Okay? We're already in the surgery. We know exactly how bad this cancer is. We're not exploring to see how bad. We know how bad it is. And this might sound like a justification for war, but it is not. It is a justification for getting all of the margins. You already have the body open. So it doesn't matter. Do you think it gets better or worse if we now sew the body back up? Do you think they learn the lesson of, oh, we better not screw with America? Or do they learn the lesson, you just hit them and they're such cowards, they're so weak, they will never come for us? It doesn't go away. It only reinforces what Reagan sent in Beirut. It only gets worse. And we're all in denial if we think we didn't know exactly what we're dealing with. My question to you today is, are we really at the point in our country where we have family members, our brothers and sisters, saying, stop the surgery, sew him back up, and let him die? Are we really in that place? Or can we find ourselves growing back into a nation that is strong enough to say, this patient is worth saving? It's worth the radical steps that we have to take and the pain we will endure because this life is worth saving. That's your choice, America. Back in a minute. Sponsor is LifeLock. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that somebody else has been living a financial life in your name. They opened a credit card that you never applied for. They took out a loan you never requested. And two people are living under the same identity, you and some dirtbag, except you don't know what's happening. They do. That's exactly what identity theft is. Somebody takes a few pieces of your personal information, a social security number, a password from a data breach, a date of birth, and suddenly they're using your name and they're opening up all kinds of lines of credit. This is why LifeLock exists. They were there before anybody was even thinking this was a problem. They invented this. LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second for signs that somebody may be trying to use your personal information. And if there is a problem, they alert you. And if you do become a victim, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it guaranteed or your money back. So protect yourself with LifeLock. Join now, save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code Beck. Call 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or LifeLock.com. Promo code Beck, 40% off. Terms do apply. LifeLock.com, 1-800-LifeLock, promo code Beck.
We don't need to agree on everything. Just enough to stand shoulder to shoulder. Glenn Beck is back in a minute.
Welcome back to the Torch Insider Show. I'm Jason Butchell. I had something else entirely to talk to you about right now in this segment, but after hearing Glenn's analogy of cancer and Islamism, it spun me off in a completely different direction. I trace this back to where all of this began and the spread of Islamism all over the world, but now how it's threatening the United States. It's already has threatened Europe. Europe is falling, but the United States was always their main goal. But when you think about where this began or really got a dose of steroids, I always go back to the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood and their leader, Hassan al-Banna, way back in the 30s and 40s, really invented modern-day jihadism and turned it into the violent force that it is today. His writings and the Muslim Brotherhood's influence completely changed for the catastrophic worse everything we have been seeing from 9/11 to Iran. Pick any other wild and horrific terror attack that we've seen. It traces a lot of its origins back then. Someone that agreed exactly with what the Muslim Brotherhood and Hassan al-Banna were preaching was a man that was not from Germany, but broadcast a radio broadcast every single day from a town called Gießen, Germany. Gießen radio was broadcast by the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, who ran to Italy, became great friends with Mussolini, and then went and became great friends with Adolf Hitler. And they both saw anti-Semitism and killing Jews as the new hotness. That was what they wanted to broadcast to the rest of the world, and that's what they wanted the Middle East to become, an area where they could eradicate Jews. They broadcast this message. Hassan al-Banna the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was using the Muslim Brotherhood's language, pushing this out into the Middle East. And one of the people that listened nonstop to this was a young Ruhollah Khomeini. I had to look at my notes because I don't know how to spell his first name. The original OG of the Iranian Revolution, the terrorists that stole a country, Iran. Khomeini he listened to Gießen radio and the Grand Mufti talking about killing Jews nonstop. He took the teachings of Hassan al-Banna from the Muslim Brotherhood, translated them from Arabic into Farsi, and pushed that propaganda all over the place. It really is wild, all the fallout from World War II that is still happening today, including the massive Jew hatred that is even spreading on the right. But when you look at politics today and the Islamization of the West, Muslim Brotherhood is still active. Their offshoot, organization that spun off of them, was the Council on American Islamic Affairs. Do you think that they are active in politics today? Producer Matt, throw this up. This is a picture of the head of CARE walking the halls of Congress with Linda Sarsour. They were going to see Rashida Tlaib. Yes, it is very active. Yes, the hatreds that go all the way back to fascism and the 40s and radical Islamic terror back then that have everything to do with annihilating Jews is still very active. And the cancer is spreading. It's spreading both on the left and the right. Back to Glenn.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We're glad you're here. It's Al-Quds Day in Iran, and the top security advisor for Iran is marching in the Al-Quds parade, which should be interesting. March in a parade, go to a meeting. I don't know which one's more dangerous right now, but good luck with that. Something big is happening either today or this weekend. We will have our eyes on it and keep you informed. One of our insiders said, Glenn, when is your son going to join the military? I'd like to answer that when we come back.
Welcome back to the Torch Insider Show. I went back to the comments. I was writing down comments, and I was getting ready to go, and I forgot that we had the longest segment of the day coming up right now. But I'm actually glad, because there's way more that I wanted to talk to on that, and producer Matt cut us off as he usually does and did not allow us to speak together. Matt, get out of here, Matt. He's behind the camera, tormenting. If you're not a subscriber to Torch, you really, really need to be. Go to glennbeck.com/torch. This is your last chance. You got 4 minutes left so that you can gain access to the Insider segment for the entirety of the radio show today, all 3 hours. Go to glennbeck.com/torch. If you were listening to me in the last segment, you do not want to, and Glenn, before that, talking about this cancer that is growing, you cannot miss our special next week. It's on Thursday. You cannot miss it. I'm telling you, it's got so much info. It's packed with information, documents, recordings, intercepts, everything that show how bad this really is. This is something you could take directly to a representative and say, at the very least, look through all this. Did you know this? Can you start to do something about it, or at least raise the conversation? So we're hoping it really, really moves the needles and starts some of these conversations in the halls of power, because what I just showed you, there are real Islamists walking the halls of Congress that are being invited in. Who the heck knows what they have planned? And we're not even talking about the terror attacks that we're seeing this week. We're talking about a slow, undercover radical transformation of the United States of America. And it is happening. I've got a lot of comments that I want to get to. Marty in Arizona just said, Jason, when we did nothing after the killings in Beirut, they knew they could do whatever they wanted to do. Yes, if you are a Marine, well, if you're anyone, you know this story. If you're a Marine, it hits very close to home. And we have all been chomping at the bit to finally finish what they started there. And it has not happened. You go all the way back to 1979, to attacks on the United States, year after year after year after year, all the way up until today. They tried to assassinate our president, for crying out loud. We have justification for what we're doing right now, going all the way back to 1979, 1983, year after year after year after year after year, all the way. So I know that the nuclear weapon thing is the biggest worry, and that's the excuse that they are giving for this. But we don't even need that. We really don't. I've got more updates on the war, how that's going. Well, maybe because Glenn has talked about this. Let me show you this. This is the Truth Social post that has been retweeted or reposted on X by the White House. This is from Trump saying, we are totally destroying the terror. Well, let me skip over that. Go down to where he says, watch what happens. He says, watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. Today. They've been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years, and now I, as the 47th President of the United States of America, am killing them. What a great honor it is to do so. So that is a heck of a warning, and it's a heck of a push for us to look at what do they have planned for today. And the General Kane and Secretary of War Hegseth I'm not sure if they're still answering questions or not, but they were just talking about what was happening in the war today and what to expect. Here is General Kane.
As the Secretary said, today will be our heaviest day of kinetic fires across the operating area. CENTCOM continues to attack ballistic missile and drone capabilities so that they are no longer a threat to U.S. forces, our bases, or our partners. They're continuing to destroy the Iranian Navy to ensure freedom of navigation.